Let's move on to US-Indian relations, since your company has traversed continents and countries. In 2009, President Obama visited India for this and for the strategic India dialogue, and a number of issues were discussed. And back then, he had said, before going to India, when it comes to the sphere of our work, building a future of greater prosperity, opportunity, and security for our people, there is no doubt I have to go to India, and he did.
Yes.
So what is your take on the current state of bilateral relations, and what are some of the issues that you think are really occupy U.S.-India relations right now?
Well, that's a really good question. It's sort of a loaded question. But let me say this. The U.S.-India relationship, we must renew a U.S.-India relationship between the two world's largest democracies. Mm-hmm. Our relationship has been broader and deeper and stronger that I know since I've been in this country. It is very important for the two countries which have a mutual shared interest, shared commitment in terms of the democracy and diversity, to come together, because we also have a shared security interest as well. Now, our relation that I see it had a little bit of a problem and challenges, but I still believe that it is moving forward, is going ahead, is doing very well. And I hope that if Mr. Krishna, who is the foreign minister, has met, as I understand, Secretary Clinton, I hope they will take to the next level. But let me say the following things. The business-to-business engagement and relationship between the two countries has been profound. As a matter of fact, there has been a hallmark of our relationship. U.S.-India bilateral trade is close to about $50 million. It's the best number that I have ever seen for a long, long time to come. In addition to the government-to-government relationship or the engagement, we also have people-to-people engagement in terms of the art and culture. Something happened not too long ago in terms of the art at Kennedy Center. About a year ago, there was a sponsor of that. That was a wonderful, wonderful way to connect and build the bridges of understanding and cooperation between the two countries. And in addition to that, Indian American has played a very important role in that relationship because of the fact that they're the great ambassador to this nation. And New Delhi and Washington has had a little bit of what I consider some kind of a relationship that probably didn't understand each other's policies and programs and plans and issues. Our U.S.-India nuclear deal was a good example, but I think it's behind us. We need to move forward. We understand what Washington is trying to do, what Delhi is trying to do in terms of this issue with the Kashmir. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you this thing, that India is surrounded by hostile neighbors. Mm-hmm. So we do have a shared, what I consider the security interest between U.S.-India as well. And you said it very well. President Obama, if I paraphrase, said that the U.S.-India relationship is defining 21st century relationship. Mm-hmm. What a best way to end my conversation in terms of your question.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. Given the fact that, as you said, the largest democracy is and oldest, America being the oldest democracy and India being the largest in numbers, it's a natural corollary for the two countries to come together on economic, political, social issues. I absolutely agree.
But they need to have economic reform.
Right, and I was getting to that.
Sure, please do so. Please ask the question.
I was getting to that perhaps sometimes Indian business leaders feel kind of restricted, maybe as a result of Indian policies. So what recommendations do you have to that effect?
Well, my recommendation is very simple, Anita. As you say that I serve in the committees of the USTR, the Department of Commerce, as well as the many other Export-Import Bank, and I hear from the business leaders in the United States about economic reforms in India. They say it's come to grinding halt. As you know, the central government, which is headed by the Prime Minister Singh, is a coalition government, and then you have a provincial government headed by the Chief Minister. They both have a competing interest and a conflicting views, and it has become a deeply dysfunctional, deeply divided, and deeply partitioned politics. So I hope, because some of these chief ministers in the provinces aspire to become a prime minister, so they do have a competing interest, but I would hope that they can set aside their differences to work for shared goals, and the shared goal is to move India forward, and that means to become part of the global economy. That means to have the economic reform in India. India has a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And I really think we haven't exploited their fullest potential. Especially for America, in order for us to have recovery, we're talking about close to 400 million Americans, that's a middle class, they will buy our products and services. Hence, we can boost our exports.
That is true. I think the conflict in Indian politics, particularly about keeping historical context in mind, with the end of communism and with that kind of struggle going on, with the end of history, which Francis Fukuyama wrote a lot about. I think this is a new century, the 21st century. Those old historical restrictions are gone. And I think the U.S.
Well, they're
United
fading away.
They are fading away.
So they're slipping into the shadow.
Well, yes, one would hope that. One would hope that. Right.
And there are still old guards that they believe in it. But I do believe that the younger generations of India is the most strongest, the vibrant generations that I have ever met in my life. They're strong, they're responsible, they're vibrant. They will take India forward. I strongly and firmly believe in it.
I hope so too. I just hope that India is able to tackle this issue of poverty. But
the poverty and income inequality, the people who have it, who do not have it, is ingrained in their DNA and their society. It will take a little bit of time to create the middle class India. We're having the same problem in our own country in terms of income inequality, the people who have it, people who do not have it. And I talk about in my next book about the individual economic well-being that we need. So that's the challenge that India has. India also challenges in terms of infrastructure as well. There's a lot of potholes and so on and so forth. The roads are not very well maintained, and so there's a lot of competing interests, and that's what the democracy does sometimes. But they need to make it work.
Well, this is a good segue to get into your new book, because you just talked about your second book. Tell us about your second book. What's the theme? Is it a continuation of your first book? And when do we expect to see it in the market?
Okay, well, we expect to see that in the market sometimes in September or in the fall of this year. And the second book is called Pivotal Points, and to make America work again. My first book talked about renewing America, the decline of America. It talks about America as a crossroad. Talks about how do we take America forward by working together as a citizen, as a concerned citizen, as a 21st century citizens. Now the next book is about the pivotal points, which talks about each of the pivot points that we need to move America forward. That means many things. America's exceptionalism, innovation, the manufacturing, middle class. We're talking about immigration, which is a very hot topic these days. We must try to attract and retain the talented individuals in this country by attracting the immigrant, because the fact that we help them to go to school, we should try to keep them. And I know Senator Warner has been working on that bill, and I hope that bill gets passed. So there's many chapters. We also talk about the dysfunctional Congress, as you know, is pretty dysfunctional, the dysfunctional citizenship. So those are each and every pivotal points is a chapter by itself. So that's what the book is all about.
Oh, well, that's very exciting. So you look upon immigration and you look upon
immigration, education, manufacturing, American exceptionalism, innovations, those are all part of that's what will take the America forward, that I believe strongly.
Absolutely, I agree. All those pivotal points and discussions on those and finding solutions to the challenges that exist in our country, I absolutely agree with you.
We must start now.
Absolutely. This is the right time.
Exactly.
Right time.
I believe this is the decade, the first decade of the century was the decade of decline. The decision that we make in this decade will determine the future of America.
Well, you are an optimist, and I think that's wonderful. There are many optimists like myself as well. And I think focusing ourselves on the youth, as you are doing, and creating future leaders from the youth would be itself an exceptional contribution that you're doing. Any final thoughts for our viewers? Anything you'd like to share? Anything else on your background, on your future?
Well, I'd like to talk about what made me successful.
Okay.
And what do you, if I have to give some advice to the new entrepreneur, the young generation, what would I do? So let me give you some of the qualities that was important in my company when I started the company and built the company to such a height. Number one, get a good education. Education laid the firm foundation for me to start the business. Get out of the comfort zone, willing to take a risk. Number three, that I seen the quality that made it very successful, customer satisfaction was very, very important in making that company what I consider to the new height. And the one thing is, and the last thing, be passionate, be committed, be focused, be engaged, be involved into day-to-day operations of the business. And I'm not good in giving advices to the people, but I will say this, that is against my upbringing. But I'll share some of the thoughts for the entrepreneurs, for the new generations, what they have to do. Number one is never give up. As Mr. Churchill said, never give up, never give in, never give in. That was a good advice 70 years ago. That's a good advice today. Mm-hmm. Write your own legacy. Come up with the metrics that you want to be judged. And the third point that I will make, be a good learner. Learn something new every day, and that will make you to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business. And the last thing is true to yourself. Mm-hmm. As the late Stephen Jobs, who was a true treasure of America, said in his commencement address to Stanford University, your time is short on this planet of Earth.
That is
and
beautiful.
In addition to that, live with your own life. It's very important to engage.
Well, that is wonderful. All those are wonderful suggestions, wonderful recommendations, and I hope the young are listening to you, the viewers, and can gain so much from you. So it's been a wonderful pleasure having you on our show. We discussed so many topics, and you give so many suggestions and recommendations, particularly to the youth, and I hope they're watching the program, and I'm sure they'll benefit from all that you had to share today. Thank you once again for being with us.
You're most welcome. I hope our path will cross again.
I hope so too.
Thank you.